In 2020, geneticists at Trinity College Dublin extracted DNA from a 5,200-year-old bone inside Newgrange. The results made global headlines. The man buried in Ireland's most sacred tomb was born of incest. A god king, they said, like the pharaohs. But in June 2025, a team from University College Dublin published a peer-reviewed response, and their conclusion was the opposite. We have 7 structures on this list. One rewrites a discovery from last year. One was carved from a single mountain, and one has a wall so thin it should not exist. Number 1 starts in Ireland. Number 1. Newgrange. The passage tomb at Newgrange sits in the Boyne Valley, roughly 50 kilometers north of Dublin. It was built around 3,200 BCE. That makes it 500 years older than the Great Pyramid, and 600 years older than Stonehenge. The mound rises 12 meters above the surrounding farmlands and covers nearly 4,000 square meters and contains more than 200,000 tons of earth and stone. 97 carved curbstones ring its base. In December 1967, Professor Michael J. O'Kelly of University College Cork stood inside the central chamber and watched the rising sun on the winter solstice enter through a narrow slit above the main entrance. The light traveled 19 meters down the passage and illuminated the inner chamber for 17 minutes. O'Kelly had rediscovered an alignment the builders had engineered 5,200 years ago, and it still worked. But the engineering achievement that truly defies explanation is the roof. The central chamber uses a corbelled vault, where each layer of stone projects slightly inward over the one below it, until the layers meet at the top. That vault has been completely watertight for over 5,000 years. The builders used no modern sealant and no mortar. The only thing holding back 5 millennia of Irish rain is the precision of the stone placement itself. Then, in 2020, Dr. Laura Cassidy and Professor Daniel Bradley at Trinity College Dublin extracted DNA from a petrous bone found in that chamber. Their paper in Nature reported that the individual's parents were first-degree relatives. The media framed this as proof of an incest-based ruling elite, similar to the pharaohs of Egypt. The story went global. 5 years later, Dr. Jessica Smyth and Dr. Neil Carlin at University College Dublin, along with Professor Penny Bickle at the University of York, published a direct challenge. Their paper in the journal Antiquity, dated June 2025, argued that the genetic patterns across Irish passage tombs reflect distant biological connections, not close inbreeding. They found no archaeological evidence of elite housing, no wealth disparity in grave goods, and no monuments to centralized power anywhere in Neolithic Ireland. Smyth described the burials as selective, but not elitist. Bickle called the original finding a one-off compared to all available DNA data for the period. There is also the question nobody talks about. When O'Kelly reconstructed Newgrange in the 1970s, he built a near-vertical white quartz facade along the front of the mound. Behind that facade sits a reinforced concrete retaining wall held together with mortar and metal pins. Professor Gabriel Cooney of University College Dublin has argued for decades that such a wall could never have survived the settling of a 200,000-ton mound in Antiquity. Critic P.R. Giott compared the result to a cream cheesecake with dried currants, but that concrete wall remains in place today, and most visitors assume they are looking at the original structure. That was number 1. Number 2 takes us to the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Number 2. Nan Madol. Off the southeastern coast of Pohnpei, in the Federated States of Micronesia, 92 artificial islands sit on a coral reef. They are connected by canals and built entirely from columnar basalt, stacked like logs into walls over 8 meters tall. The complex covers 83 hectares. The total weight of architectural stone in place is estimated at 750,000 metric tons. The largest single basalt column weighs 50 tons. In 2016, Dr. Mark McCoy, then at Southern Methodist University and now at Florida State, published a study using uranium-thorium dating of coral, extracted from the tomb of the first chief on Islet H-113. The results narrowed the start of monumental construction to a 20-year window between 1180 CE and 1200 CE, pushing it back over a century from the previously accepted date. McCoy called it the earliest direct evidence of a chiefdom in the Pacific. The question is transport. Using X-ray fluorescence analysis, McCoy and his colleagues traced a significant proportion of the basalt to Socace Island in northwestern Pohnpei, more than 25 miles away by open sea. The builders had no pulleys, no metal tools, and no large vessels in the archaeological record capable of carrying 50-ton loads. Archaeologist Rufino Maurizio calculated the pace at which stone was delivered. Over 4 centuries of construction, the builders moved an average of 1,850 tons per year. That is 5 tons every single day, across open ocean, for 400 years. Pohnpeian oral tradition attributes the construction to 2 sorcerers named Olosohpa and Olosihpa, who are said to have made the stones fly. In 2016, UNESCO inscribed Nan Madol as a World Heritage Site and simultaneously placed it on the list of World Heritage in danger. The site is sinking. Mangrove roots are splitting the basalt walls. Storm surges are accelerating the collapse. And no independent team has conducted a comprehensive excavation since McCoy's survey. That was number 2. But number 3 is the one that keeps archaeologists awake at night, because it has no history at all. Number 3. The Longyou Caves. On June 9, 1992, a farmer named Wu Anai in Zhejiang Province, China, decided to pump out a pond his village had called bottomless for generations. Beneath the water, he found a hand-carved chamber with a ceiling 30 meters above the floor. Archaeologists from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences arrived and eventually mapped 24 chambers with a combined floor area of 30,000 square meters. The total volume of siltstone removed from the earth is estimated at 1 million cubic meters. Yang Hongshun, a senior archaeologist at the Archaeological Institute of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, identified the single most precise engineering puzzle. Adjacent caves are separated by walls as thin as 50 centimeters. The carvers worked in separate chambers, unable to see each other, using only torchlight in semi-flooded conditions, and they never broke through. Yang said the measurement apparatus they used must have been very advanced, because the inside of each cave had to be perfectly parallel with the next. Every wall and ceiling surface is finished with a uniform pattern of parallel chisel marks set at approximately 60 degrees to the axis of each course. The marks are spaced consistently across all 24 chambers, suggesting a coordinated workforce following a single design standard. Glazed clay pots recovered from the silt date to the Western Han Dynasty, placing construction at least 2,000 years ago. 2 mysteries remain completely unsolved. First, the caves appear in no historical records. Longyou County has maintained continuous local chronicles for over 2,000 years. Not a single line references the construction of 24 underground chambers, each larger than a cathedral. The earliest known mention is a 17th century poem, written more than 1,500 years after the caves were built. Second, the debris is gone. 1 million cubic meters of excavated siltstone simply vanished. There is no spoil heap anywhere in the region. When the chambers were first drained, researchers noted something else. The water contained no fish. Every natural pond in the surrounding area teems with carp. The man-made chambers were somehow inhospitable to aquatic life. That was number 3. And number 4 is the structure that breaks every assumption about ancient construction timelines. Number 4. The Kailasa Temple. At Ellora in Maharashtra, India, Cave 16 is not a cave at all. It is a freestanding temple, 50 meters long, 33 meters wide, and 30 meters tall, carved entirely from the top down out of a single basalt cliff. The builders started at the summit and worked downward, completing the tower and upper levels first, removing approximately 200,000 tons of solid rock in the process. The temple was commissioned by King Krishna, the first of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, and constructed between 757 CE and 783 CE. UNESCO inscribed it as a World Heritage Site in 1983. The conventional narrative describes thousands of workers laboring for over a century. But Indian archaeologist M.K. Devalekar ran a different calculation. Assuming one quarry worker could remove approximately 4 cubic feet of rock per day, Devalekar concluded that a workforce of just 250 laborers could have completed the temple in 5.5 years. He argued that the architects had already built a stone prototype at the Virupaksha temple in Pattadakal, which served as the engineering blueprint. Monolithic excavation, he noted, actually requires less labor than transporting equivalent blocks from a distant quarry. The engineering challenge is dimensional control. Unlike horizontal cave excavation, the top-down method meant every carving, every interior chamber, every pillar across 4 stories of sculpted halls had to be visualized in 3 dimensions inside solid rock before the first chisel strike. Any error was uncorrectable. Drill marks from steel rod drills are still visible on the walls. The Archaeological Survey of India has documented these tool traces, but has never published a definitive reconstruction of the carving sequence. And then there is the question of the missing rock. 200,000 tons of basalt were removed from this cliff. There is no spoil heap of the right volume within 1 kilometer of the site. The most likely answer is that the debris was broken up and reused as building material in surrounding settlements. But no archaeological survey has ever accounted for the full volume. If discoveries like these keep you watching, take a moment and subscribe. We still have 3 structures left, and the last one on this list holds the largest worked stone block ever documented. That was number 4. Number 5 survived something none of the others were tested against. Number 5. Sacsayhuaman. Overlooking the city of Cusco in Peru, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman is built from massive polygonal limestone blocks, some weighing up to 360 tons, fitted together without mortar. The joints are so precise that a knife blade cannot fit between them. The stones were quarried approximately 35 kilometers away, at a site called Goicolea, and transported uphill to an elevation of 3,700 meters. In the 1980s and 1990s, archaeologist Jean-Pierre Protzen of UC Berkeley demonstrated through experimental archaeology that the precise polygonal joints were achievable using only stone hammers, through a process called rock pecking. He showed that the technique relied on iterative trial fitting rather than templates, but Protzen never attempted to move or raise a stone anywhere near the 200-ton range. His experiments topped out at roughly 10 tons. The scale of the original fortress stunned the first Europeans who encountered it. Inca Garcilaso de la Vega, writing in 1609, described it as so massive that no one who looks upon it could imagine it built by the hands of men. Pedro Chiesa de Leon, writing in 1553, recorded that 20,000 workers labored on it for decades. He also noted that the Spanish themselves were unable to dismantle the largest stones, despite their best efforts. In 2024, a team led by Lipa, Tarque, Pela, and Goicolea, affiliated with the Pontificia Universidad Católica del Peru, the Universitat Politécnica de Catalunya, and the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid published the first numerical seismic simulation of the walls. Their paper in engineering failure analysis demonstrated that the polygonal masonry performs well under earthquakes up to a peak ground acceleration of 0.2 g. Above that threshold, the walls suffer significant damage, including out-of-plane failure. A section of the third platform partially collapsed on January 14, 2010, following heavy rains and seismic motion. What the Spanish conquistadors could not accomplish with deliberate demolition, nature nearly achieved by accident. After the Inca Rebellion of 1536, the Spanish systematically quarried Sacsayhuaman for cut stone. They dismantled the upper towers and stripped 60 to 80% of the original structure. The stone was carted downhill and reused in the cathedral, the Church of Santo Domingo, and colonial residences throughout Cusco. Only the 3 lowest Cyclopean terraces survive, because the Spanish found them impossible to break apart. That was number 5. Number 6 was built by one person. Number 6, Coral Castle. In Homestead, Florida, a structure made of 1,100 tons of oolitic limestone sits on a 1-acre lot at 28,655 South Dixie Highway. It was built by a single man named Edward Leeds Carlin, born January 12, 1887, in Latvia. He stood 5 feet tall and weighed between 45 and 54 kilograms. He had a 4th-grade education. He worked alone, almost always at night, for 28 years, from 1923 until his death on December 7, 1951. What makes the timeline even stranger is that Leeds Carlin moved the entire structure once. Between 1936 and 1939, he relocated every stone, roughly 10 miles, from Florida City to its current location in Homestead. He hired a truck and a driver, but insisted on loading and unloading the stones himself. The driver later told reporters he was never permitted to watch. When asked how he moved the blocks, Leeds Carlin offered only one answer. He said he understood the laws of weight and leverage well. The site includes obelisks 25 feet tall, weighing 28 tons, wall stones weighing up to 55 tons, and a 9-ton revolving gate that a child could push open with one finger. In 1986, that gate stopped working. Engineers from the University of Florida were called in for the repair. What they found was straightforward, but extraordinary. Leeds Carlin had drilled an 8-foot vertical hole near perfectly round, completely through the center of the 9-ton slab using only hand tools. The gate rotated on a recycled truck bearing seated at the bottom of this shaft. The bearing had rusted out. Removing the gate for repair required 6 men and a 50-ton crane. After Leeds Carlin's death, investigators inventoried his tools. They found exactly what photographs from his lifetime had shown: wooden tripods made from telephone poles, block and tackle pulleys, chain falls, winches, hand-forged chisels, tools improvised from old automobile parts. His friend Orville Irwin documented all of this in his 1996 book, including photographs, drawings, and schematics. The methods were entirely conventional. The mystery is not how he did it. The mystery is that he did it alone, in darkness, at a scale that should have been physically impossible for a man his size. Leeds Carlin also published 5 pamphlets, including Magnetic Current in 1945, in which he argued that the Earth is a giant magnet animated by dual polarity particles flowing in a double helix vortex. Modern physics rejects his theory entirely, but the 8-foot borehole remains. That was number 6, and number 7 holds the record. Number 7, Baalbek. In the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, 900 meters southwest of the Temple of Jupiter, 2 enormous stones sit in a Roman-era quarry. Tourists have photographed the larger one, called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman for over a century. It weighs approximately 1,000 tons, as measured by an Austrian geodetic team from Linz in 1996. But in June 2014, a team led by Dr. Margarethe van S. of the German Archaeological Institute began removing soil from beneath it. They found a second stone. It measured 19.6 meters long, 6 meters wide, and at least 5.5 meters high. Its estimated weight is 1,650 tons. It is the largest worked stone block ever documented, and for 2,000 years, it had been buried directly beneath the one tourists had been standing on. Dr. Jeanine Abdul Masih, professor of classical archaeology at the Lebanese University, published the definitive quarry analysis in the Journal of Eastern Mediterranean Archaeology and Heritage Studies in 2015. Her mapping confirmed that the quarry sits slightly higher in elevation than the temple complex. The megaliths were transported downhill, not uphill. This reduces the transport problem significantly, but it does not explain how the Romans controlled the descent of an 800-ton block on a slope. A stone that heavy, once moving downhill, generates forces that could crush any braking system available in the ancient world. The 3 trilithon stones embedded in the western podium wall of the Temple of Jupiter each measure 19 meters long, 4.2 meters high, and 3.6 meters thick. Each weighs between 750 and 800 tons. They sit 20 feet above ground level. French archaeologist Jean-Pierre Adam published the foundational transport study in the journal Syria in 1977. He calculated that 512 workers using capstans and rollers could move a 550-ton block. But 557 tons is roughly 70% of a trilithon stone, and his calculation addressed horizontal transport, not the vertical lift required to place these stones 20 feet above the foundation course. Physicist Giulio Magli of the Politecnico di Milano noted in his 2016 archaeoastronomy paper that the Romans placed the heaviest stones high in the wall rather than at the base. In standard horizontal coursed masonry, this makes no structural sense. Magli called the choice strange indeed and suggested it was purely aesthetic rather than engineering driven. As of 2026, the base of the 1,650-ton forgotten stone has still not been fully exposed. Its true height remains unverified. The largest worked stone in human history is still partially buried. That is our list. 7 structures, 6 continents, and every one of them carries at least one measurement that no engineering textbook has fully accounted for. We started in Ireland, where a 5,200-year-old roof still holds back the rain, and where a genetic narrative that shaped 5 years of headlines was quietly reversed by a team that asked a simple question. Not whether the DNA was real, but whether the story we built around it was. That may be the thread connecting all 7. Not that we cannot explain these structures, but that the explanations we accept are sometimes more fragile than the stones themselves.